Hello and welcome back. This is ProTaleDev, and what we're looking at today is some more Blender. What I'm going to be showing today is the last of the monsters that I've worked on. I'll also be showing the rigs on the monsters that I've done. I'll only be showing the rigs briefly. There isn't much to them because all I've done is automate. I've added automatic weights to them for the paint weights, and I have micro adjusted some of them and fixed up some of their paint weights because some of them were broken, but for the most part they are finished and ready to be placed into Unity. So the first one I'm going to be showing right here is the green slime. So if I quickly show what it looks like with its material, you can see they've got these little eyes that come out here, and then it just looks like a standard slime, almost like a slug as well. And we also have the rigging, which I can quickly show if we just go into wireframe. You can see our rig right here. And what we can do is we can just sort of, if we're going to pose mode, and then move this around, you can see that actually moves our model around as well. We can actually move the tail as well. And as you can see, it's all rigged. Okay, so the next monster is our mud slime. I'm not actually going to show the rig, like the positioning for every single one, because you get the idea. For this guy, it's a mud slime or the mud monster, and same thing. It's all rigged as well, so I can just move this around if I wanted to, and just rotate it. Again, I'm going to animate all this in a separate video in actual Unity, and I'll get all the controls and stuff done. But if I quickly show what it looks like in terms of color, there you go. This is it. Looks kind of droopy, kind of creepy. So this is the mud monster. Next we have the thin bone. Thin bone looks very different to the Dungeon Farm Tycoon version. It's more like a four-legged dinosaur in a sense. Just wanted to make it look more unique to the other monsters. Again, this is also rigged. So that's the neck. The feet is also rigged, so I can move the feet individually, and I can also move the tail individually as well. Okay. So the next thing is this Skullwalker, which is like a downgraded version of the thin bone, similar vein, and so the eyes look very similar as well. If I quickly show them with material, so it's got this bone material, and then the eyes is like red with white, which is very similar to the thin bone's eyes as well. And this is very straightforward. We got a basic model right here, except we've got the rig as well, which is just the 2 feet. If I just show this, it's just one that's controlling the center, and then you got these 2 feet specifically for moving this individual part. And then when I actually pose this, again, it moves it slightly, but I actually kind of like the body stretching and moving along with the feet on this. Okay, so I won't position the rig now. I'll just get straight through this. So we have our 2 models here. So this is the stone golem. And so the stone golem actually has 2 separate sections. You've got this upper part which has been rigged, and then you've got this center core which is actually going to be moving independently when I animate it. So it's just going to float around and move, potentially rotate, while this part is actually the section that is actually rigged. If I show where the rig is, it's right there. You can see it's got 2 arms, and then it's got this 1 centerpiece just for the head that'll be moving and rotating as well, ever so slightly. Next is a really interesting one. So this is actually going to be the new water drop monster. Essentially, it's like almost like a ghost. It's just going to be floating around. It's going to move. It's going to wiggle. It's going to be the one that spawns the geysers. I do have an idea for the animation, but I'm not going to talk about that yet. And then if we just go into our wireframe, click on this, click on there. You can see what it looks like. It's just a really straightforward one. It's just essentially a straight line up, and then it's just a bit of a curve. And again, we can just rotate this however we like. Next one is the Goblin Shaman. So in Dungeon Farm Tycoon, we had a shaman, but it was an orc shaman. And I've decided that since we already have an orc brute that I've created, as well as an orc fighter, I've decided that the goblin only had 1 class, which was the 1 version of itself, which was the trapper goblin, which is just going to place down traps. I might as well make another goblin a shaman instead. And so to signify that he's a shaman, it's going to have this big mask on him. It's very similar to the other goblin that we had, but it's just got this huge mask. It's going to be really obvious that they're the shaman. Potentially they'll have a staff or something, maybe a big stick as well. So if I quickly show this once again, wireframe, just go into here and then go into here. You can see that we got our rig as well. It's all set up for the feet, its body, and then the head. And we've also got this. This mask is actually a separate object for several reasons. The first reason is that I want to potentially animate this in some way, potentially have it stretch or move, and I want it to be independent of this object. The other thing is I might actually swap out other masks later on. You know, if I ever want a goblin with a different mask, then all I have to do is change this as well. So keeping them independent of each other. So the last one is the orc fighter. It's a straightforward orc. I just show that here. Very, very straightforward. And what it's going to have is maybe a spear or a sword or something like that. Maybe even a shield. And it's just going to move around and attack the player. Essentially, I've removed the orc scout as well completely. Because it didn't seem all that interesting. And we already have quite a lot of monsters now. It has a very simple rig, which is very humanoid. So a couple of limbs, shoulders, arms, and then the feet. We've also got the head right there. And this one actually hasn't been animated yet. The reason for that is because I want to show how I animate it very, very briefly. So the first thing you do is you go and make sure you're in object mode. I do like to go into wireframe, but you can do this as well. And what you do is you click the object and then you click the rig, and then you press Ctrl P to parent, and then you can parent it with the automatic weights. Once you do this, it should paint weight it automatically as the object. Of course, this doesn't guarantee that it is connected correctly, or parts aren't overlapping, parts aren't controlling different sections, and so you do have to go into the paint weights. So you would have to go into the paint weight option and try and figure it out, where these parts are being controlled. I can already tell though that the feet is actually working correctly because this foot is working correctly, which means this one, and since they're identical on either side, I know that this one is probably working as well. Of course, I'll go over it in my own time and make sure that they're working all correctly. This is just a quick way of just showing you, kind of what it looks like. Of course, we can select different rig bones, and what we can do is we can find out which parts are weighted to what sections. So as you can see, we've got this. They're not completely heavy on red, and this is because the more red the color is, the more strongly that rig will affect it. And so at the moment, it's all going to kind of stretch around a little bit. I kind of like that feel for these models because they're already low poly anyway. So I think the stretchy aspect kind of works in a cartoonish way. However, of course, some parts need to be controlled a little bit better. For now, I'm probably just going to leave it as it is. If we just click on this one, this is a good example. The head, oops. The head is a lot more red, but you can see there's a lot of green here. Luckily, not the rest of it isn't being affected, so we know that moving the head is only going to affect this part. Of course, we could turn this whole thing red and then just have the neck be the part that rotates and stretches, which would be more accurate. In my own time, what I'll do is I'll go through all the paint weights on every object just to make sure they're okay. For now, I think I'm going to leave it there. So this is all my models that I've done so far, and all the monsters are now finished and rigged. And the next time you see them will hopefully be in Unity. So this has been ProTaleDev, and I'll see you next time.